In 1973, I was diagnosed with scoliosis and fitted with a Milwaukee back brace. I remember where I was when I found out. The news was devastating. I was only 9 years old. After my parents took me for ice cream to soften the blow, I crawled into my grandmother's bed and cried. I didn't know anyone with a brace and had no idea what to expect. I did know that it would make me look different, and I didn't like that idea at all. Wearing the brace for the next 7 years was life-changing. I didn't realize the impact this experience would have until I became an adult. The brace shaped my view of the world in profound ways, but it was the support I received from family and friends that really cemented how I would cope with and view this experience. My parents, siblings, and grandparents surrounded me with love, acceptance, and suggestions. They suggested I name my brace because why not? I was going to be wearing her 23 hours a day. I named her Betsy, and Betsy came with us wherever we went. This action of naming my brace changed my mindset. For many of those early years, one of my grandmother's friends sent me cartoons to make me laugh and remind me that it was what was on the inside, not the outside, that was important. This family, my family, that rallied around me, showed me what it means to belong. Belonging helped me cope with a difficult situation. As an early childhood professional now, I know how important belonging is to children's outcomes. Just one caring adult can change the trajectory of a child's life. As a child, I didn't get to choose who I belonged to. As adults, we get to choose who is inside and who is outside our circles. And we get to widen our circles, open our arms, welcome those who are the same and those who are different from us into our lives. This is not easy. It takes trust, it takes patience, and it takes practice. But even the smallest of actions, a hug, some ice cream, a funny cartoon, can make all the difference. As we kindle our chalice flame, may we remember this is a church of the open mind. This is a church of the loving heart, which moves us to compassion and love, to the building of beloved community and heaven on earth.
The first reading is called Wandering Around an Albuquerque Airport Terminal by Naomi Shahab Nye. After learning my flight was detained 4 hours, I heard the announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate 4A understands Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days, but Gate 4A was my own gate, so I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled on the floor, wailing loudly. "Help," said the flight service person. "Talk to her. What is her problem?" We told her the flight was going to be 4 hours late, and she did this. I put my arm around her and spoke to her haltingly. Shudawa, Shubeduk, Hobib T, Stani, Stani. The minute she heard any word she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought our flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for some major medical treatment the following day. I said, no, we're fine. You'll get there, just late. Who is picking you up? Let's call and tell him. We called her son, and I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane, and I would ride next to her, Southwest. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons, just for the fun of it. And we called my dad, and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, that they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took about 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling about her life, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts, out of her bag, and was offering them to all the women at the gate. To my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the traveler from California, the lovely woman from Laredo. We were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There are no better cookies. Then the airline broke out the free beverages from huge coolers, and the 2 little girls for our flight, one African American, one Mexican American, ran around serving us all apple juice and lemonade, and they were covered in powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend. By now we were holding hands. She had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing, with green furry leaves. Such an old country traveling tradition. Always carry a plant. Always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around the gate of late and weary ones and thought, this is the world I want to live in, the shared world. Not a single person in this gate, once the crying and confusion stopped, has seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. This still can happen anywhere. Not everything is lost.
The second reading is Small Kindnesses by Danusha Lamaris. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. Or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them, and for them to smile back. For the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy? These fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat.
So I was working in my yard, he said, telling us a story, cleaning out the chicken coop when one of my chickens got loose. He had our attention. This chicken, she's surprisingly quick, he said, a little rambunctious, so I grabbed my broom, chasing the chicken frantically around the yard, trying to get her back to the coop with very little luck, just running in circles trying to get her home. And clearly it looked like I needed help because there coming down the sidewalk was this group of musicians. So at this point in the story, I was pretty sure this was some alternate universe. This sounded very weird to me. Loose chickens, random groups of traveling musicians down the sidewalk, but we kept listening. He said, so they asked if they could help, and I gasped, yes. So they put down their instruments, and me and the musicians were running around the yard, trying to chase the chicken until we finally got her safely home, and we went about our day. What? I thought. What magical world of chickens and brooms and musicians running around a yard is this? But all of it was true, and all of it ridiculous, and all of it beautiful in some strange way. So I immediately asked to use the story in a sermon, which the others around me hearing it thought, what? And I said what ministers say about good stories, that'll preach, that'll preach. Because every day, all over this world, all over our lives, the strange or unpredictable moments that require our attention, those moments that almost get in our face and demand our attention when something breaks loose and seems to be running rampant, whether it is a chicken or it's an emotion or it is a country. And all of a sudden, no matter what else has been planned or expected or on the agenda for the day, it just all gets scrapped for now. And you've got to gather some semblance of community to respond to whatever need is right in front of you right now. Whether that community is made of good friends or the wisdom of your ancestors or traveling musicians just strolling down the sidewalk, to rally around whatever has broken loose or broken apart in your yard, in your heart, and do what needs to be done to just hold it all together, help each other find our way back home. The minute she heard any words she knew, writes Naomi Shihab-Nye, she stopped crying. She pulled a sack of homemade cookies out of her bag, offering them to all the women at the gate. Not a single one declined. We were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. It was like a sacrament. There are no better cookies. Sometimes it's a chicken on the loose. Sometimes it's the heartbreak or the grief or the fear of uncertainty, of feeling lost, of feeling alone. And your world crumbles right there. And the only thing that can save you is drawing on the frayed shreds of collective humanity around you, quickly finding a way to weave them together when you just need something to hold you. And this can still happen anywhere, she says. Not everything is lost. Karen's call to worship words this morning reminds me of how important it is to rally around each other. How important it is in those moments when we receive some news or go through some experience that's challenging, where all of a sudden our world seems upside down and the soul gets off-kiltered and we're running frantically around our yard or around our life, and we can't imagine what comes next because it's all new, it's all changed, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in seismic ways, and life will never be the same. It's so important, isn't it? So important when you face something hard, when you face some great challenge, to know that people sometimes literally got your back and they help you brace for the impact of a cruel world with a friend named Betsy. To know each other, we've got you and we've got this. Sometimes that's the hardest thing, to not go it alone. To not succumb to the glossy, attractive idolatry of self-sufficiency and rugged individualism. To open our heart and let some folks in, to know we can't go it alone. To open the gate to our yard and say, come on in, bring whatever instrument, whatever song you've got to play, help in whatever way you can, like some messy, everyday sacrament right in your front yard. Sometimes I wonder about that being the difficult thing in community, the difficult thing about belonging, of how we truly pay attention to our differences or attend to our particularities, knowing that anyone at any time can be holding really anything. It might be something so hard that they hide deep down. Maybe they're unsure of their welcome or where they can feel at home. And sometimes that makes me wonder about all these churches, ours included, proclaiming all are welcome. It's a nice phrase, but is it true? Probably not, if we're honest. In theory, maybe it is. I'd like to say, well, it's true at our church. The others are all lying, you know. Theologically, historically, of course, universalism believes that all people, even those we're not fond of at all, are held by some larger love, some universal love of God or spirit or mystery. There's an old universalist joke that says, well, I don't have to love the people I hate because God will. But when it comes down to it, sometimes we do draw some clear lines around the values and beliefs we hold in terms of what beliefs or practices are actually welcome, and these lines, I think, can be good. For us, from our Unitarian and Universalist heritage, I think it comes down to two core principles. I know we have 7 principles and 6 sources. Those are all good too. But I think there are 2 core ones, one from each tradition, that guide those. The first is a Unitarian belief in a wide circle of wisdom, that wisdom comes from many sources. And the second, a Universalist belief in a wide circle of love, that everyone is beloved. The first one, this wide circle of wisdom, is that we welcome beliefs that affirm or at least acknowledge that wisdom can and does speak from many sources. So that means that most absolutisms probably aren't going to feel very welcome here. A belief that there's only one truth and you've got it figured out and everyone else is wrong. That doesn't really jive with pluralism. Or the second one, a wide circle of love, we believe and welcome beliefs that affirm a wide acceptance of human identity, which means beliefs that diminish or denigrate people's identity of ethnicity, race, class, sexual orientation, gender identity, affirmations of patriarchy or white supremacy aren't really welcome here. And I think those are good things. Sometimes it's the unspoken borders we create, too, that we wrestle with. I've told this story before, probably from the pulpit. I can't remember. Don't ever feel bad about not remembering what I say here, because I don't remember either. So I've told this story in this church in different groups about a colleague that I had when I was a religious educator at another UU church in the Twin Cities. She ended up leaving our denomination several years back and is now an organic farmer and Episcopal priest, which I love that combination. When I asked her a while back why she left this tradition that she still does love, she said this, and it's stuck with me ever since, and I think it's something that I wrestle with and our tradition wrestles with. She said, because the Episcopal Church had more room for my doubt than Unitarian Universalism had for my faith. I want to say that again. Because the Episcopal Church had more room for her doubt than Unitarian Universalism had for her faith. Oofta, as my people say. A poignant reminder that sometimes, even in our best attempts to be really pluralistic, we can fail to welcome in the particularities, attend to the differences, or maybe it's more so we make some deep assumptions around what beliefs people are carrying when they come into our doors. Sometimes we don't always welcome the song that is being sung just outside our fence, folks who simply want to come in and help out and create a sense of home for themselves and others, when in theory they are welcome here, but in practice maybe they haven't felt that. And yet, it's not all bad. We keep learning. We keep growing as individuals, as congregations, as a tradition. We keep drawing circles, hopefully wider and wider still, because we do believe and often practice love and welcome tables and building bridges and learning more about each other and change. And when we pay a little better attention to each other and we let the stories that we hear that are different than our own, when we let those stories demand our attention, then we rally around each other in better ways so that belonging doesn't become some scarce commodity, but an abundant, overflowing resource. It can feel hard at times amidst other larger things in the world, like crumbling democracies, mixed and mingled with bright voices and calling to action by some of our fiercest, youngest leaders, refusing to give up or let go amidst all the chaos and the uncertainty and the fear. That makes me still believe that when those voices show up, perhaps it is true, as the poet writes, mostly we don't want to harm each other. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire. only these brief moments of exchange. As much as the cycle of despair and gloom can become the dominant narrative, and there is truth there, there is also truth that resilience and strength has rallied and circled around hopes and dreams for generations. Love and tenderness has rallied around our most broken and vulnerable moments for many of us to remind us that we are here and there is beauty right in the midst of the struggle. We have been rallying around each other for generations at our best, often failing but trying to do better at times, in what the poet calls these fleeting temples that we make together. We rally around to bless and celebrate the birth of new children. We rally around tables every day to break bread and drink from life's abundant, simple beauty of a shared meal. We rally around our friends when their hearts are breaking and around each other when we face some great challenge or get some hard news and don't know where to go. Sometimes it's the encouragement and hope of a loved one that helps us through. Sometimes it's simple kindness and just a moment, a glimpse from a stranger holding a door or smiling that gives us whatever courage we need right then to keep going, to do whatever needs to be done next and hold it together. We rally around loved ones who are working on recovery of mind or body or spirit. We rally around bedsides and gravesides when our hearts break open and a beloved now becomes an ancestor who lives in the soul and the unbroken circle and the rally round of the saints of light. We've been rallying around each other, embodying belonging for each other over and over again, and we can't stop now, and I'm convinced we won't, even if we screw it up royally sometimes. That's why we gather around tables every day, because it takes constant practice. It's why we gather around and lay hands of blessing on our youth as they come of age. It's why we gather around and rally on city streets or in government halls to remind each other that sometimes we're singing for our lives, and we need each other, friend, stranger, all, to make music and sing songs with all of our voices. Always carry a plant, writes the poet. Always stay rooted somewhere. We need each other to brace ourselves in this world, to know there is enough room for all the voices to rally round and find a root and a song and enough love to carry us home. I invite you, if you're comfortable, to join a hand next to you, place your hand on your heart, and breathe deep the breath of life. Go yonder, and gather the people. Give them not hell, but courage and hope. Give them something of the love you have found here, and tell all the people that love is our home.